What is up, everybody? It is your boy Dreadcast. I know it's been a very long time since the last time I posted a video on YouTube. I do have a recent one of me making Master 1 uh, live on my Twitch stream, and you can follow me everywhere at the name Dread underscore cast. That's my name everywhere, whether it be Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Twitch, here on YouTube, pretty much everywhere. My Discord, follow my Discord. It's Dreadful Gaming. Anyway, it's been a while. I haven't done a tier list in a long time. That's what we're going to do today. I'm going to be posting more videos from my live streams. I'm going to try to get more into it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. So feel free to give me a follow, give this video a like, and subscribe. And I really appreciate it. We got a nice little community on the Discord, and we'll help newcomers as well. That's what we're all about. So yeah, my name is Dreadcast. Welcome in. This tier list today is going to be different. So we got season 25 has just came upon us. The meta is going to change, I think, pretty drastically. The last time I did a tier list, I said Cash Tira would. This is before Cash Tira fully came out, and I thought it would be tier 0. I was clearly very wrong about that. So I'll admit, fault for that one. I'll admit defeat. I'll take the L. But listen, this is going to be a very different one. We have one huge, as we all know, huge archetype coming out within a few days, about a week or so, on January 10th. You guys all know what that's going to be, which is Super Heavy Samurai, which I'm looking forward to. But what I'm looking forward to even more is Gold Pride. Been waiting for this archetype for months upon months. It was a TCG exclusive, and I'm a big Punk player. I've made Master 1 with Punk Cash Tira twice now in the last 3 months. So Gold Pride Punk's going to be a real fun one. So let's see how the things are going to shake out, because we also got Vanadium support coming up. There's going to be Rescue A support coming down the line. Pearly's getting E-Pearly Noir, even though they took a hit on the ban list. D-Link, there's a lot going on. So we're going to go over it today. And, here it is. I have 60. This isn't going to be that long because I'm going to go through them quick. I know usually they're very long. I apologize for that, but the crappier decks, let's be honest, we're going to throw them right into the dumpster or Rogue. I'll go over them quickly. These are all decks, though, that are either really popular. For instance, Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, those are popular decks. People love them, even though they're not very good. They're decks that are really good, obviously. Meta decks we have here. We have tier 2 and tier 3 decks, of course, and then we have decks that I've either been seeing on the ladder, and I've been in the Diamond Master tier, the Diamond and Master tiers for months now, so this is what you're going to see if you're looking to get there and looking to grind and make Master rank. So there's a lot of these different decks, but there's a lot of variety as well, so you'll see a lot of these different decks. Plus, I took some from MasterDuelMeta.com that are highly popular or being used and people are making Master 1 with. So let's get right into it. All right. Hope you enjoy. Now, I put them in order of the top decks because I want to start with the meta, and then we'll work our way down from there. But this is not based on right now. This is going to be based on after January 10th, because let's be honest, we only got 7 days left. If you could grind your ass off right now and get to Master before January 10th, that would be a good thing to do, since you already know what this meta is all about. Use your best deck you're most comfortable with, and then take it from there. But January 10th, a lot of things are going to change. We got the big ban list. Dragon Link got hit pretty hard. Pearly got hit pretty hard. What else got hit? Vanquish Soul, sort of, not really, because of there can be only one. Runic Stun, and any stun got hit tremendously hard, which we like to see, of course. And then you have Cash Tira, which is losing one Fenrir, which is fair because I guess it's a staple in every deck pretty much. It searches itself. And then you have Birth going to 1, which is going to be a real big hit. But I've already started testing that out. I don't think it's going to be too harsh on the deck. You could figure things out. But the decks that didn't get hit, that's what I want to talk about. So let's start with what right now, according to MasterDuelMeta.com, we'll take a look over at Master Duel. We're looking at Visas Amritira. This is the big Vanadium Synchro card that's coming out on January 10th. So looking forward to that if you're a Vanadium player. I am myself. But let's look at the tier list here. As of right now, Branded Despia in Tier 1 by itself. Today is January 4th, 2024, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? And it's towering over the rest of the competition. Vanquished Soul, of course, in Tier 2. I think the deck's a little overrated, but that's just my opinion, and obviously it's dropping. And there's your Tier 1 and Tier 2, and according to MasterDuelMeta.com, you got Pearly in Tier 3, Labyrinth, which is moving up. Dragon Link has dropped because people are anticipating the big hits. Vanadium has climbed, and it's only going to get better. Kashtira, it's been lingering in Tier 2, Tier 3. Pendulum Magician, oddly enough, and Adignister, which is basically Cyber's Pile. How is MathMech not even on this list? This is why I take this list with a grain of salt, because MathMech, to me, is one of the better decks, and we'll get into the tier list about that. If you look at popularity ranks, Branded Despia 1, Vanquished Soul 2, Vanadium 3, Dragon Link 4, Labyrinth 5, MathMech 6. So there's obviously a clear issue here, right? And you can see all the other decks in popularity here. So we'll get back to it. Let's start it. Branded Despia. Obviously, it is, I think, the best deck right now. I think it's absolutely Tier 1. I think there's no question about it. I think even after the ban list, and like I said, this is a tier list for post-ban list, after January 10th, for the rest of Season 25, for the next meta. And Branded is just, it didn't get hit at all. It has all these different weapons. I mean, it can fuse from everywhere and anywhere. It has Quem now. It has, obviously, Cartesia. It has the Bestials. It has, it sends fusion monsters to the graveyard, brings Fallen Albaz out. I've never seen a deck that can literally do so much on the end phase. They're never out of a game. It's so hard to beat Branded at this point, and it's killing me because it's Brain Dead Despia. I can't stand the deck. I'm not going to be bitter about it. I'm going to be honest about it. They are Tier 1 right now, which, I think a hit is coming in the near future. I think it's gotta. It's too powerful right now. Although it is extremely expensive. It's definitely the most expensive, I think, deck out there. And now they're playing it at 60 cards, so good luck trying to make that deck. So there you go. Branded Despia, Brain Dead Despia, Tier 1 right now. Always up there. It's always Tier 1 and Tier 2, so I guess it's worth it. Moving on, MathMech. So this is the one I want to talk about a lot. To me, this is the most annoying deck to play, even more so than Branded. Because if they go first, you really can't do anything. You can imperm them, you can ash them. The only thing that can sort of slow them down is Maxi. Talk about another brain dead deck, by the way. Has the same lines of play. You know what they're going to do. The circular play, Sigma to the grave, Sigma comes back out, circular adds any MathMech card to the hand, so it adds Superfactorial, and then they XEs into Laplacian or Alambertian, whichever one it is, and then they add, Diameter or whatever. I know Diameter is at 1, but that's not a real big deal. Circular needs to be hit. Please, Konami, if you're out there listening, Circular has to go to 1. This has to happen. MathMech is a problem in my eyes. Even though, for some reason, I haven't been seeing it as much lately, it's still around. And if it's played right, it's pretty much impossible to beat if it's going first, right? The only decks that can really hurt it is Kashtira, because if you de-shifter it, they're done. And if you're playing Bestials, it hurts them a lot, obviously, too. But, you got to fit Bestials in your deck. That's why Branded is obviously top. So in my eyes, I don't care what Master Duel Meta says. Without it really getting hit at all, and without and all these other decks getting hit, and yes, we do have other decks coming out, I think MathMech's Tier 1. I think it's up there with Branded, for sure. It just has too many options. If it, even if you stop them with their math mech route, they could go the Cyberse route, do all the link plays, go into Singularity, send the Cyberse fusion monster to the grave, and then they got Signet Conflict, all these negates and ripping cards from your hand, which affect. They just have too much going on. It's so difficult to beat. Something has to happen. Both these decks need to get hit at some point. Otherwise, they're going to be, to me, the two most dominant decks in the game right now. My opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know why Master Duel Meta doesn't have it there. It's obviously popular. I don't know how people aren't winning with it because it's absolutely powerful. Moving on, Vanquish Soul. As we saw, it was tier 2 on Master Duel Meta. It's taking basically not even really a hit. There can be only one. Yes, it helps the deck. It's sort of like a control deck. It is a control deck. It barely uses the extra deck. All it uses is Rock of the Vanquisher, their Link monster. They bounce cards. They can avoid hand traps really well. The best way to beat them is by breaking their board with board breakers and stuff. But they're not impossible to beat. To me, I would much rather play Vanquish Soul than Branded or Math Mech. Because those decks have way more... obviously Branded has crazy recursion. Math Mech just has so many different options, and they could play through so much. Vanquish Soul could play through stuff too, but I feel like the power isn't there as much as Math Mech and Branded have. There's not as many, the versatility is what I would say. So, to me, Vanquish Soul is tier 2. Especially now you got Fenrir at 1, hurts a little bit. There can be only one, hurts a little bit. It's a control to mid-range deck. It's still going to be good because, like I said, all these other decks are getting hit, so it's going to help it, but it's not on the level of Math Mech and Branded for me. It's just not on that level. And obviously Math Mech's sort of Math Mech is like a mid-range, and I would say Branded's more of a mid-range, even though Branded is way more combo-y these days than they ever have been. So, a lot of mid-range decks so far that we're talking about here. And these are pretty much the top 3 in my eyes right now. We'll see how that pans out after January 10th, but I still think these will be the top. I think maybe Vanquish Soul might drop a little bit, but the other two I think will stay in the tier 1 vicinity. And then we'll get into the big archetype, obviously, that's coming out soon. Labyrinth. The one major control deck in the meta, has been for a while and will be for a long time. Labyrinth will always be the best control deck. It's been like that for months. It's going to be like that for more months, and who knows when. Plus, it's got more support coming down the line. It's a great deck. Hard to operate, believe it or not. Hard to build the deck. Building a good deck list for this deck is tough because it depends on the meta and all that stuff. Great going first, not as good going second. That's my problem with it. In Master Duel, you kind of want a deck that's balanced, that could go first and second. Math Mech can do that. Branded could do that. Vanquish Soul can do that all right, even though it bricks a little bit. Labyrinth has a tough time going second sometimes because there's only so much you could do. It's got to set a lot of traps. But if you're playing the furniture version the right way, your deck list is right, you can do a lot. I think it's obviously a high-end deck. The pots getting hit on the ban list, and now Pot of Desires they don't use anyway, but Pot of Extra being at 1, Pot of Prosperity being at 1, nothing really new for them to, work off of. I want to say tier 2 because they didn't get hit on this ban list. And you're going to have all those other decks that I talked about falling because they got hit hard. So I think Labyrinth's going to climb a little bit just by default because they're the top control deck and they're always going to be relevant and they're always going to be good. And to me, that makes them a tier 2 deck. They're always consistently good. So if you operate it the right way, easy master rank, you could climb with all these decks, obviously. Kashtira next. Kashtira. You'll love to see it. I loved Kashtira. Obviously wasn't as powerful as I thought. I was wrong about that. It was not a tier 0, not like Tier Elements was. But definitely a strong deck. obviously because it has the ability to play D shifter, which is one of the big deals. Um, it has, a rise heart, hard to beat that when you're like Math Mech, Branded, Dragon Link. These decks are going to have a really tough time playing through a D shifter or an Arise Heart, because then everything that they want to send to the graveyard is now banished, and that doesn't work for them all the time. So uh, that's where the big advantage for Kashtira comes from. But now with this hit, what's going to happen? To me right now, I think Kashtira in its current state is tier 2. And I would probably put it ahead of Labyrinth and maybe even Vanquish Soul. Like I said, I don't care what Master Duel meta says. Um, yeah. So, but that's right now. But we're talking about this tier list for January 10th. And losing the one Fenrir, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but does hurt. Also, the birth. The birth is big. The birth is the whole. To me, the birth is like the main cog engine of the deck that causes it to be so good, because it has one of the best recursion systems in an archetype, because you could just bring everything back with birth, and start cooking again and making everything you need. And it's not a combo deck, so you don't have to cook too much. You just have to get your big bodies out there and start doing your thing, going into your XCs. Also, you got number 11. You could steal monsters. There's a lot you could do. But without birth, it makes it a lot more difficult. Now, I have been testing it actually on the ladder in Diamond right now, because the new season just started. I'm in Diamond, with one birth and one Fenrir. It does leave room for more hand traps, which is nice. So, I'm able to play a couple more I believe imperms. I also got board breakers in there. And I replaced Fenrir with basically an Ascendant of Thunder. So you have just an extra level 7 body that you could summon. So you can XCs off. So you don't always have to use Kashtira monsters. So there's ways around it. I think it hurts, but I don't think it hurts as bad as people are going to think. The birth hurts a lot more. But it could still be a pretty good control type deck with power. But for now, because I'm a little leery with all these other really good decks still, and obviously you got Super Heavy Samurai coming out, I'm going to keep it at tier 3, the top of tier 3. It's still going to be good, but it's still brick tier, right? It bricked even before. Now will it brick even more? That's the question. But I'm sure people will figure out a way to make it work. Maybe play a going second version of it would be cool. Would be good. So I think tier 3 is fine. It might even be tier 2. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. But for now, that's what I think. Vanadium. I've been playing this a lot lately. Season 24 last season, I was basically playing Vanadium the whole season. I climbed all the way through Diamond, all the way through Master. I did have to grind a bit. The one thing with Vanadium right now, because it's not at full support, is that its consistency is very lacking. Obviously, because it's a combo deck, so Maxi hurts it a lot. So you got to hope you have the out for Maxi, or you got to hope they don't have Maxi. Going second, you got to hope you have hand traps and things to stop them, so you could build your board and, break their board. It's still good if you build it right, and I've been tweaking it a lot. So I was able to climb all the way to Master 2 with it, but I ended up giving up on it because it was just so inconsistent. I'd win 4 in a row, I'd lose 4 in a row. I couldn't really get there, and I just went back to my good old Punk Kashtira deck, and I ended up winning 5 in a row to make Master 1 with Punk Kashtira. But Vanadium did all the legwork, so it's definitely a really good deck. Let's put it that way. And with the new support coming out, like I said, leaks, there it is. Visas Amritara. This is cracked. This is going to be huge. Why? I'm sure you've seen this in other videos before, but I'm going to explain to you real quick why. It's a level 8 Synchro Light, right? It's 1+ tuners, plus 1 light monster. Notice that it says plus 1 light monster and not one non-tuner monster. So you can literally use a tuner and a tuner to make this. And what tuners work with this? Visa Starfrost is a 6. Meek is a 2. 2 plus 6 equals 8. All you need is a Meek and a Visa Starfrost. Boom, you can make this very easily. And not only that, its effects are unbelievable. You can only use the second and third effect of this card's name each once per turn. This card's name becomes Visa Starfrost while in the monster zone. Why is that important? That's actually huge. Because you can link it off into Scareclaw Lightheart, which I call Lightheart. Lightheart then can get you Rhycophobia, which Rhycophobia could then get you Rykart, and then you could just start doing more plays from there. So it has that option available, which is huge, the versatility. 2, if this card is Synchro Summon, you can add 1 spell trap that mentions Visa Starforce from your deck to your hand. That's literally every card in the Mannadium deck. That's literally everything. You can add, well, spell trap, obviously. So Obsession. You can add Calarium. You can add Rhycophobia. You can add, what else? Oh, Imaginings, Reframing, Mannadium Reframing. You can add so many things, that Mannadium uses. And that's just a huge deal right there. So easy add. 2,500 body, not to mention. And the third thing, during your main phase, you can destroy 1 monster you control, which is good because you can pop your own Meek, and then it brings out another Meek. Also, for the rest of this turn, all Synchro monsters you control will gain 800 attack. Great. Solid. All Synchro monsters and already this deck has monstrous Synchro monsters. I mean, you're talking Chaos Angels 3,500, Dispatchers 3,500. You get boosts from the Cross Sheep usually. You got Chen Yang. If you start banishing a lot, Chen Yang gets boost. Monsters are absolutely enormous in this deck. So, Mannadium, where does it go? Well, with the meta changing, I think this is going to be one of the top combo decks alongside Mathmech. I think it becomes tier 1. I do. I think branded Mathmech Mannadium is your tier 1. Bottom of tier 1, I'll still say Mathmech and branded are better, but this is going to make the deck a whole lot better. This one Synchro monster is going to really help because the deck's already good. Like I said, it just has a little bit of consistency issues. And with Kashtira being out of the way, other decks like D-Link getting hurt, Pearly, whatever, that just only helps Mannadium get better. So, obviously, to me, tier 1, I think it's better than Vanquish Soul. I think it's going to be better than Vanquish Soul. So, Vanquish Soul isn't getting better. So, there you go. I think those are the 2 premier combo decks, and there's going to be one more, obviously, coming up. Dragon Link. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, I think, here. I don't know. There are people are bugging out about the Dragon Link players are going crazy about this, saying that basically they basically they're complaining, why is Dragon Link getting hit so hard? They lost their level 4 light dragon that they use. That's very important, the Wyver Burster, I believe it is. So, and then, you got other hits, and you got Chaos Ruler getting banned. Some serious hits, and it already had a couple of hits before that with Chaos Space. And to be honest, I'm not a Dragon Link player. I don't know how badly this is going to hurt, but I feel like it's definitely going to slow it down. I feel like it's not going to be able to do the things it can do right now. The way it could play through things. And it's already just such a long combo that everyone knows what the combo is. But the good thing about the deck is you can play through a couple of things and you could go a couple different routes. I don't know if they could do that as much anymore. So I think this is going to hurt the deck. I think it's still going to be good. It's not going to be rogue. I'm going to put it in tier 3. I think it drops to tier 3. Obviously, already on Master Duel meta, it's dropping to tier 3. So, with the hits, it's going to be even worse. It's still going to be played. People love Dragon. Like, it's still a good deck, I think, even with these hits. But it's definitely a hit. It's definitely a hit. It's going to hurt. And it's going to be a tier 3. It's not going to be one of the premier combo decks anymore, unless you're like an amazing pilot at Dragon Link or something like that. So, be prepared for that if you're a Dragon Link player. And if you're not, thankfully we don't have to watch them cook for about 25 minutes anymore. Okay, Pearly. Oh man, do I hate Pearly. I actually made this deck when it came out. I played it about 10, 15 times and then dismantled it because I couldn't stand the way it plays. I hate the way it looks. Bunch of cats. It is what it is. Furries. Pearly was the top deck for a minute. They're starting to hit the spells though. Delicious. Getting hit hard. Going to 1. That's big. That's huge. Sleepy still not hit. I believe. Let's see. Let's go to the ban list updates. I forget exactly. I know obviously you got Pearly at 2. Pearly's at 2. You have what else? Where's the ban list? Oh yeah, you got also the I can't even pronounce Nemleria cards coming out, which I don't think anybody cares about. But where is Unconfirmed Examinatium? That's super heavy. Where is the give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Secret packs of him. Where's the ban list? No ban list? Load more. When was this? This is old. December 5th. Let's try this one. I feel like this might be the ban list one. This is the super heavy samurai, obviously, we know coming out. I'm going to get to that soon. Those are all the cards coming out for that. No ban list here. I guess it's not here. I don't know. I don't know where he puts the ban list. But basically, Pearly got hit pretty big, I would say. Not totally. I don't know if it's like I don't feel like it's like a huge hit for them. Plus, you got E Pearly Noir coming out eventually. Not this upcoming pack, but maybe in February. So, there's definitely a resurgence for Pearly possibly to come. But I feel like Sleepy Memory is going to get hit. Delicious Memory got hit. I forgot the other cards that got hit. I can't remember right now. I know Pearly's at 2. It's just not the same without Delicious Memory, it being at 1. I think Sleepy might be at 2, actually. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Write in the comments. But basically, it's taking a decent little hit. And it's just one of those decks where it just relies so heavily on one thing, pretty much, when it goes first. And that's to make E Pearly Noir. Now, yes, you can play that Phantom Knights version, the Ghost Trick version of it. People are starting to play Tearlaments with Pearly. I feel like there's a lot of copium going on with this. But until they get E Pearly Noir, I think this is another deck that's just been dropping. It's obviously already in Tier 3 and Master Duel meta, but like I said, take that with a grain of salt. I still think it's going to be Tier 3. I don't think it's going to be even close to Tier 2 anymore. I rarely see it anymore. I didn't see it last month much, maybe a few times. I did play Pearly Tearlaments in my rank up game to make Master 1. But like I said, I beat him. He didn't have enough gas. And maybe he was coping. So yeah, it's Tier 3 clearly to me. Obviously, as you could see, the 3 decks, Kashtira, Dragon Link, Pearly, 3 big decks that were up there in the Tier 2, Tier 1 area, all getting hit, all will drop to Tier 3 just because there's so many good decks right now. It's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to have this variety, but also you have a lot of power in 3 or 4 decks at the very top, which I think is a bad thing. Because then you're just going to see, you're going to have to play for those 3 or 4 decks, and it's going to be very hard to prepare for 4 different decks all the time in Master Duel. So, Pearly to me, yeah, over here, I would maybe, I'd maybe put it ahead of Dragon Link. I don't think I'd put it ahead of Kashtira, though. It doesn't matter. They're all Tier 3 to me. All right, let's get into it. Super Heavy Samurai. what we've all been waiting for. There he is, the prodigy Wakayashi. Really looking forward to this one. The thing is, I also want Gold Pride. It might be an expensive month. I don't really want to spend money on that stuff, but it is what it is, right? So Super Heavy Samurai leaked. It's coming, and it's coming pretty much in full, I believe. They did ban a card for an FTK, which is fair. You don't want some FTK cheese bullshit, right? So, you know, that's fine. But as long as Scarecrow and a few of these other cards aren't going to come in pre-hit, which Scarecrow we already have. That's why it's not here. As you see on the leaks, we got Super Heavy Samurai Stealthy. We've got Motorbike, which is ridiculous. Hopefully that doesn't come hit. Get that at 3 would be nice. This is the Prodigy. This is the huge card. That gets you everywhere. Super Heavy Samurai Security. You got Soul Gaia Booster. The Big Benkai Monk. Super Heavy Samurai Commander Shinawa. A lot of pendulums. And then this big monster, Super Heavy Samurai Brave Masurawo. Masurawo. Okay. And it's got 4,500 defense, 4,000 defense, and attacks with defense, which is amazing. I love that about this deck. But really, it's going to go into all types of crazy synchros, like Barone, and, it might make Appaloosa, things like that. It's going to be a crazy board. But here's the thing about the deck. I recently made a Reddit poll about this. What tier, and I'll pull up the poll right now on my Reddit. This is the poll I made yesterday, actually. And we have over 3.7 total views. We have 360 votes so far. The poll is not closed yet. As you can see, the question is, with a big ban list and potentially brand new meta coming, what tier do you think Super Heavy Samurai will be in? And it looks like everybody, majority are saying tier 1, which I have a tier 1 just too powerful. Tier 2, great, but has issues. Tier 3, Max C will hurt. That's what I voted for. Rogue will flop in Master Duel, or tier 0 best deck by far. 12 people said that, and obviously I don't think that's going to happen. But majority, and it's split equally between tier 1 and tier 2. Everyone thinks this deck is going to be huge, right? So here's my issue with it. It was absolutely tier 1 in TCG when it was out, before they absolutely decimated it by killing Scarecrow. And OCG, it was very good as well. Here's the thing. Max C hurts. Droll hurts bad. Droll and Max C hurt this deck really badly. The reason being is that it can't play spells or traps. That worries me a lot. I like my decks kind of balanced, and this deck is clearly not balanced. It's all monsters and pendulums, which makes it sort of a glass house kind of situation where, yeah, it could combo off for days. It could probably play through Ash Blossom, Impermanent, all these hand traps easily, right? But the hand traps it cannot play through is Maxi and Droll. And how is it going to stop Maxi and Droll? Well, Maxi, it could stop with Ash, so it has to play through Ash. But it can't play 2 Called by the Graves and a Crossout like every other combo deck plays, right? Got to play those 2 Called bys in the Crossout. You can't do that with this deck. So that's 3 extra options to stop Maxi that you don't have. That's going to be a big problem. Now, yes, you can remedy this a little bit by playing Gammas. You got the 2 Gammas, but then you're holding a brick also. But then people just aren't going to shotgun Maxi. Obviously, you shouldn't shotgun Maxi. People were doing that because of Kashtira. But now with Fenrir at 1, it's going to be less likely. And with Super Heavy Samurai coming out, people are not going to do that. So now if you play a monster, you can't Gamma. So it's going to be very hit or miss, especially in a best of 1 situation. And I think going second, it might be all right because it does have room for hand traps and all that stuff. But it needs something just in case it gets hit by Maxi or Droll. And it doesn't have those things. Like, for instance, when I play Vanadium and I get hit by Maxi and I don't have anything to stop it, I have like 2 triple tactics thrust in my deck, so I can thrust into a Daruma cannon. So I have some sort of trap that could, stop them on their turn from finding lethal, or I'll thrust into, or I'll have something else, like an evenly matched or whatever. Other traps and spells to help me get out of the situation. Triple tactics talent. This deck can't even play thrust or talents or anything like that. So I really don't know what this is going to look like. I really don't know what the options are going to be. I'm a little worried. So since I'm going to be a little tentative about this, I really do like the deck. I think it's awesome. I'm very big into synchro decks. Synchro decks are my favorite. Obviously, I play Vanadium. I play Punk. I can't wait for Gold Pride Punk. And I would really like to play it. I think it's going to be super expensive, and is it going to be worth it? I would wait and see if I were you guys, by the way, if you're going to do that. Because if it is really expensive, is it going to be worth it? I think coming out of the gate with these three powerhouses possibly at the top, you still got Labyrinth and Vanquish Soul. Plus, I think you got still other really good decks out there. I'm like I said, tier 3. I'm going to be tentative about it. I'm going to say it starts off at tier 3 until maybe someone figures something out. Maybe there's something I'm missing. I'll put it at the top of tier 3 because it's still going to be powerful when it does go off. The thing about the deck is going to be, like I said, it's going to be a glass house scenario where if it has the Ash for Max C or it doesn't get Max C going first, it's going to build a board that's so ridiculous that it's an auto win, basically. It's going to build one of the most cracked boards you've ever seen, okay? If it can, But everyone's going to be playing Droll and Max C, so it's going to be very hard for it to do that all the time. And then going second, that's another story. Maybe they're going to have to play a going second version of Super Heavy Samurai, where they play a lot of hand traps and board breakers so that they could stop their opponent and then build their board going second and win the game that way. I don't know how it's going to work, but for now, top of tier 3 for me for Super Heavy Samurai. I know that might seem low to a lot of people. The deck is cracked, don't get me wrong, but without the spells and traps, I just feel like it's way too glass house. All right, let's move on. The Bestial here, this is representing Runic Bestials ever since Joshua Schmidt won the YCS Bologna with Runic Bestials. You got a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon and playing this deck. It's pretty nightmarish to me. Whenever I run into it, especially when they go first, I have a lot of trouble versus it. I lose most of the time versus it. It's a very good deck, I think. Will it sustain? Like I said, a lot of the decks are getting hit. Runic Stun is getting hit, but not Runic Bestials. So I think this deck is going to be fine because the Bestials aren't getting hit at all. I'm actually going to put it in tier 2. I know that's kind of crazy, but I think we're going to see a lot of Runic Bestials coming up, especially with decks like Branded, Mathmech, Vanadium, and I don't know, with Super Heavy Samurai, I really don't know if that's going to really hurt them because they're like earth monsters and stuff like that. So, but still, you have 3 of the top decks are going to be light and dark. Bestials are going to hurt bad. Runic by itself is already good and it draws a ton of cards. I think this is going to be a high tier 2 deck. I would actually even put it at the top of tier 2. Runic Bestials, you heard it here first, coming into the new meta is going to be very, very strong. I think it's going to be the best Runic version of the deck coming into this format. So, good on you, Joshua Schmidt. Very creative. Dinomorphia. Let me just say, I've been seeing a ton of Dinomorphia. More than I've seen Dragon Link, more than I've seen Pearly, more than I've seen Vanadium. Not more than the rest, but more than a lot of these other good decks I've been seeing in Dinomorphia. And honestly, Dinomorphia, it's not going to get any weaker. It's getting stronger. It has a lot of different options. It could play with things like Bestials, I feel like. And going first, it's almost impossible to beat this deck. I mean, once Rex Term gets out on the field, it's like you really can't do much against it. And you got a lot of good combo decks right now, so they need to go off, and it's just very hard for them to. You need things like Triple Tactics Talent to pull the Rex Term, but then they've got all these other traps and plays that they could do. I really don't know how it fully operates, but when I see it, I usually lose to it, especially if they go first. Going second might be a different story. I'm not going to say they're tier 2 or anything like that, but they're definitely not rogue. I'm going to put them at the bottom of tier 3 for now. I think they are going to get better, though. I think they are going to get better. So look out for Dynamorphia. It's sort of this control deck where it's like all or nothing, but when it hits hard and it's a W. You know, you're taking the L off the chin. Rika. I love Rika. I think it's one of the best decks. It's always consistently great. It obviously makes a crazy turn 1 board. Going first, it's great. It does have a problem with back row, but no one plays it. I never see it. I never see it in Master Duel. No one seems to play it. It seems like it's just sort of kind of getting power crept by all these other decks, or people, it's just not popular. I think it deserves to be in tier 3. I would put it even ahead of Dynamorphia, but I'm putting it there because I know that it's a really good deck. But in terms of popularity, it's really not around. So you guys should play Rika more. I think it's worth it, especially with everybody playing these light and darks, Bistils and everything. You'll sneak under the radar with this water plant deck that can definitely do a lot of damage. So Rika tier 3. Tearlaments. Oh man, what is going on with Tearlaments? Copium all over the place. Tearlaments players always Copium, always trying to figure out the new thing that they could do. The deck is actually probably going to get a little better now. Now that Cashier is getting hurt a little bit, that leaves room for Tearlaments. There's more, other good things coming out for Tearlaments. Support that might help them indirectly. So I don't think they're going to be tier 3. You know what? It's tough. It depends on what the Tearlaments deck is. If it's like a pile, it's probably going to be decent. I think a lot depends on the pilot. It depends on the deck list. I think it's going to be very hard to really climb very far with it. Yeah, you could do Tearlaments Vanadium, but that's part of Vanadium. I'll put it at the top of Rogue for now. I know that sounds crazy, but I just don't think it's good enough. I think it just got hit too hard. The Merly hit was a killer for them, and I think it's too hard to recover. They're just coping at this point. So for me, yes, top of Rogue, high-end Rogue for sure. Pendulum Magicians, we saw them in tier 3 on Master Duel Meta. Yeah, it's a good deck. I mean, it's the same as it's been. It could do a lot of things going first too. It avoids a lot of the things that hurt other decks like the Bistils. But to me, it's not, it's Rogue. I don't think, yes, a good pilot could do things with it. And maybe right now it's tier 3. But once you have your Super Heavy Samurai coming out, you're going to have Branded and Mathmech getting more powerful, Vanadium getting more powerful, Runic Bistils now, Labyrinth. There's too many other great decks. I think it's overwhelmed and power crept by everything else. Definitely an interesting deck to play. I've seen it a lot in Master, so you could definitely do damage with it. But to me, it's Rogue. I can't put too many decks in the tier 1, 2, and 3 area. We already have 3 in tier 1, 3 in tier 2, and 6 in tier 3. That's a lot. So Sprite. Whatever happened to Sprite? I see it coming back a little bit recently. Seeing a lot of Gishki Sprite, obviously. It's pretty good, but Sprite ain't what it used to be. It's obviously just not that powerful anymore. But it still can win games. With the right pilot, it could still pull off things. I would say it's high Rogue. The thing is, with Cashiru now losing its way, Sprite becomes a little bit more powerful. Same thing with Tearlaments. I think it's still a really damn good deck, even with the Melfies and all that. For higher Sprite, you could do so many things with it. I just think there's too many other really powerful decks right now. It's tough, man. I'll put them at the bottom of tier 3. I mean, they might be better than Rika. So I'll give them that. I'll put Sprite right here. I'll put Sprite ahead of Rika and Dynamorphia. And to be honest with you, Dynamorphia, I'm incorrect. Dynamorphia should be Rogue. High-end Rogue. It should be the top of Rogue because it is very good. Dynamorphia is very good. Don't sleep on it. But it is Rogue. Okay, it's definitely not a popular, big-time deck right now. So Rika will be my bottom of tier 3. Sprite, I'm going to sneak it into tier 3. Telements, Dynamorphia, Pendulum Magicians are high-end rogue. Like I said, we're going through the top decks first. Now this is going to go pretty quickly. Adignister. This is really that Cybers pile stuff with Adignister. It's obviously rogue. It can do damage. Once again, it's another all or nothing type deck. I'll put it maybe ahead of Pendulum Magicians. I put it right there. It might be ahead of Telements, but it's a rogue deck in my eyes. It could do big things, obviously, bring out the Arrival, but it's a Cybers pile really. And, Cybers piles are good because they're based, Math Mech is the premier. It's a Cybers pile. Agnes is just another version of it, really. Sword Swole, always reliable, always fair. One of the most fair decks. Shout out to my boy KB. That's his deck right there. It's very good when it works, but also it's kind of power crept by a lot of decks. So I don't think it's with the decks that are out these days. I don't think it's powerful enough. Now with, like I said, Cash Terror, with things changing, the meta changing, Sword Soul might creep up a little bit. I will put it at the top of Rogue. I think it's at the top of Rogue. Please go to the top of Rogue. You're not going to the top of Rogue. Okay. So, yeah, I think it's better than Dynamorphia because Dynamorphia is just like this all or nothing play, and it has nothing else. Sword Soul can do a lot of different things. It has versatility. Like I said, Telements is coping. It doesn't have a lot of versatility at the moment. Excuse me, give me one moment. Gotta charge my my laptop here. All right, so that's Sword Soul is just old reliable, and I think at some point, maybe even this meta, maybe the next meta, we'll see Sword Soul again creep back into tier 3 territory, high end tier 3, maybe even tier 2 territory if the meta's right. It's just one of those decks. To me, it's the best deck. If you're new to the game, play Sword Soul because it's good. It's not super expensive. You learn the mechanics well. It's pretty simple to play. It's not too complicated. It's a mid-range deck, so you're not comboing off like crazy, but it does have versatility. It's got it all, and I think it's worth it. And it's one of those decks that's always going to be relevant in some way, right? Makako. I'm sorry, I call it Makako. It's Makanko. I call it Makako because when it first came out with Pearly, that one season, a few seasons ago, everybody was playing that and Pearly, and it would always beat me because it could go second, and going second in Master Duel is a huge deal. And you see it again a lot now, too, recently. I just don't think it's as powerful as it used to be. People know what to do against it now. It got hit a little bit on a previous ban list. I think it's Rogue. I do think it's high-end Rogue, though. I would put it behind Telements. Right in that Telements range. Definitely Rogue. It's still high-end, though. It's still good. You can win with it. And the fact that it goes second gives it a huge advantage in Master Duel. So that's its big, pro to playing Makako is, you could wait for your opponents to go, and then you could easily beat them with one jewel, pretty much, all right. Fluanderies, the deck I hate the most because it is so annoying to play, so difficult sometimes. And no matter how many times they hit this deck, because now Pot of Duality is going down to 1 as well. All the pots are at 1. So the deck gets heated even more, but somehow it's always still relevant. Obviously, it's not that relevant anymore. You rarely see it, but there are people who play it. So it's in the Rogue tier. I think it's, I would say, around the Makako Telements area. I'd say it's in that area. Where, once again, it's like, it could brick. If it doesn't, it does really well. It avoids everything like Max C. It's like one of those decks that can avoid everything you have that's good against every other deck. That's what makes it so good. But also, going second, it has problems. And, if you imperm it, if you have 2 imperms, or if you have a couple of hand traps, you could really stop them on turn one, and they can't build any type of board. So, kind of, glass houseage. But once they go off, they go off. So, here's the next new archetype, the one I'm looking forward to the most. This is the deck I will be playing forever, probably. So I'm getting my chance with Vanadium now. I will play Vanadium too when Visas Amritara comes out, because obviously I got Vanadium, I might as well play it. But I'm a Punk player. Punk is my favorite archetype. It just has been. I thought Kashtira would be when it came out. I do love Kashtira. I love Labyrinth too. I love a lot of these decks, but I always end up going back to Punk. There's just something about it. It's just so much fucking fun to play. And now with Gold Pride, which I've been waiting for so long, I really didn't think it was going to come. I flipped out when it came, and I think it's going to be really good with the right pilot. Here's the problem. It wasn't that great in TCG. It was like a tier 3 deck. Master Duel is a different story. Yes, it's a combo deck, so Maxi is going to be a problem, but it has the room to play hand traps and all that stuff. Less room now because you have all the Gold Pride stuff, but the gas it's going to have is going to be crazy. I mean, let's take a look at what's coming out here real quick for Gold Pride. I'm sure you guys seen. You got the Pinballer, which is one of the sickest boss monsters I've ever seen. Sucks up as many monsters on the field as you use to fusion summon it, which is going to be up to 3. And it cannot be negated. You cannot stop it. Because as long as you have lower life points, which you will because you're playing Punk, you're always going to have lower life points. And it's a 3,000 attack body. So and it could be fused on the opponent's turn with Rollerballer. If you look at Rollerballer, which you're going to play one of these, which is also a level 5 Earth, which is big. Now we have another level 5 in the Punk deck, which is that's one of the biggest problems with the Punk deck is that you have one level 5 in the main deck, and that's Deer Note. And once you use Deer Note, you can't really use it again because it uses its effect from the graveyard, and it can't be special summoned again. So now we have an extra level 5, so we can make another Synchro 8, because usually we can only make one Synchro 8 per turn. Now we can make a second one with this if we so choose. We have options now, right? So that's one thing. But Rollerball really is what's going to make the Pinballer on the opponent's turn. But not only on the opponent's turn, you can make it on your turn. It's a quick effect. It's a fuse. And Pinballer bounces back to the extra deck at the end phase. Once per turn during the end phase, if the previous effect was activated this turn, return this card to the extra deck. So you could bring it back out again and then suck up more cards. It's going to be kind of cracked. The problem is going to be getting to it. You're going to have to play through a lot. And it doesn't really have negates, this deck, right? So hand traps are going to be very big for this deck. You got Star Leon. You got Nitro Head, which you might play one of. It's also a level 8, which is good for the deck. Helps you get to Punisher and Amazing Dragon, right? We have a bunch of level 3 tuners. You got Captain Carry, which you're going to probably play 2 or 3 of. This is going to get you your trap, which is very important, which is this. Start your engine, which is a great card to have on the opponent's turn. This is going to trigger all those the fusions and synchro summoning on the opponent's turn. We can do a ton of fusioning and synchro summoning on the opponent's turn. It's going to be very difficult for opponents. And then you got, of course, the Star Leon himself. You're going to play at 3. It's a tuner, level 3 tuner. And it also can special summon a monster, which is usually going to be the Rollerballer from the graveyard. I'll show you combos when the deck comes out. And, of course, the spell, which makes the deck absolutely ridiculous, is this one. Better Luck Next Time. I think you gotta play 3 of these. It's basically the Tenki card, which adds any Gold Pride monster you want to your hand. It's a continuous spell. That's the problem with it. It could get popped. So you might see a lot of people playing Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, but I don't think people will just for Gold Pride Punk. I don't think it's going to be that good. But and then it also if you control that with special summon from the extra deck, returns to the extra deck, you can draw a card. So at the end of every turn, because the Gold Pride extra deck monsters always bounce back to the extra deck, if they're not destroyed or whatever, you're always going to get a draw off of it. It's kind of like Regained, but except it also adds any Gold Pride monster to your hand. It's going to be cracked. So Gold Pride's coming, and a lot of people are excited about it. I think just because it's going to be fun. I don't think it's going to be a super powerful deck, though. Maybe it will. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to make it a good deck. I know I'm going to make Master One with it because I already make Master One with Punk. So this is just going to make it better. But we'll figure it out. But in terms of a regular pilot and in terms of all the other decks out there, I feel like it might have a tough time. I will put it in tier 3, though. I think it's going to be maybe right around here. Right around Sprite and Rika. In that area. I think it's going to be solid. People are just going to have to learn how to play it. It might not be right off the rip, but eventually be fine because it's basically a full power deck. And now Punk finally found the archetype that goes perfectly with it. And it's going to be real fun. Really looking forward to that one. All right, Plunder. This is Plunder Lab or regular Plunder. It's actually not bad. Especially Plunder Lab could be really good. They work together really well. But I still think it's kind of a rogue deck. You need a really good pilot. And you need to build the deck really well to make it work. I'll put it right around here. Zodiac. We're seeing a lot of this stuff lately. It was on the tier list for a minute, but it's kind of trash. All it does is turbo Zodiac monsters and use Cashier monsters also on the side to help it. And then it goes into Zeus with like 6 material and hopes that it wins. It's kind of gimmicky, kind of shitty, but it is a thing. So we'll put it high rogue. I'll put it ahead of Plunder, I guess. Heroes. I've been seeing this a lot lately, especially in Master last month. I think it's just Heroes. You know, it's okay. I don't think it's in the tiers. I think it's a good rogue deck. I'd put it right here. Definitely ahead of Zodiac. Is it better than Makako? I don't know. Sure, let's put it ahead of Makako, but Flu maybe a little better. Naturia Runic. This is representing Naturia Runic. I think it's getting surpassed by Runic Bestials right now. Runic Bestials is just what the meta is. Runic is always going to be good because it has something it could put in the deck that's good against whatever the meta is. And right now, the meta, Bestials is great against the meta. So it's better than Naturia Runic right now. Naturia Runic's still good, though. I don't think it's tier 3. I do think it's high-end rogue, though. I will put it ahead of, right behind Flu, I guess. Maybe ahead of Heroes, right in this area. Stun. Stun was on the tier list this month. At one point, it was a tier 3 deck. People were playing it, and also the top 2 players the top 2 players in the Duelist Cup this month both played Stun. So that's why it got hit so heavily that this is going to be pretty much a dead zone. I mean, they'll figure things out. I'm sure they'll have other ways to play Stun. They'll play things like Summon Limit, other floodgates, and bullshit. But definitely not. I wouldn't even put it ahead of any of these things. By the way, I'm going to put Pendulum Magicians ahead of all this, too. I'm going to put Pendulum Magicians all the way up to here. Yeah, I'm sorry. Pendulum, I didn't realize it. I put it far back. This is Runic Stun. Also, once again, not going to be great. I'll put it like right around here. Trap Tricks. I hate them. So annoying. One of the most annoying decks to play. Honestly, this deck could be a tier 3 deck easily with the right pilot. But once again, it's one of those decks, great going first, really not good going second at all. Kill them going second. I get killed by them going first. So that's way too inconsistent. But it's definitely high-end rogue. I would put it ahead of a lot of these decks here, I think. I would put it right here, even ahead of Pendulum Magicians. I think it's very good. Scareclaw. I mean, Manadium's here now. I feel like Scareclaw just isn't it anymore. It was all right for a minute because it did well against Cashier and stuff. Yeah, I'll drop it down here in Rogue somewhere. Still a decent deck. Valance. I've seen it a lot when it first came out. Haven't seen it that much since. I see more Pendulum Magicians than I do Valance. Once again, I think it's a Rogue-esque deck. I'll put it in the Zodiac Plunder area. Infernoids. There's these pile Infernoid decks out there, very gimmicky now, where they're trying to make Terra, as you could see in the pic, the sprite right there. It's like so hit or miss. It's so gimmicky. Once again, another gimmicky rogue deck. I'll put it really low, I think, down here. I don't think it's going to make any noise. I just had to mention it because I've played it a few times. Exorcisters, I see it once in a while. It's just power crept. Kashtira is just the better deck. But as Kashtira lowers, Exorcister could be that banishing, that big banishing type deck. So you could see it make noise at some point. I think it's still high-end rogue, though. Somewhere around flu. I feel like flu and Exorcist is always relevant in some capacity, so I'll put it right there. This is a grass pile. Grass piles, Branded has become sort of this grass pile. You have other decks that are using it. Thunder Dragon, they'll throw Punk, they'll throw Telements, they'll throw Thunder Dragons in there, all types of stuff. Without the Ishizu cards, it's just not the same. It bricks a lot. It misses a lot. It could be bad going first. It could be bad going second. I think it's way back here somewhere. I might put it ahead of Zodiac, I guess. I don't know. Something like that. Maybe behind Zodiac. Evil Eye. I've seen that in Master a few times. A person who could pilot this deck well could do really well. It basically builds a really tough tower to out and has some decent spells and traps. Decent rogue deck. I'll put it right behind Makako, I guess. Marincess, I don't know why it's very popular still. I haven't seen Marincess at all. The only reason why I'm doing it is because on masterduelmeta.com, if we go to tier list, sorry I'm making this video very long, I'm going to cut it short soon. We go to tier list and we go to popularity. Marincess is on the list. Down there with Telements, Flu, Live Twin Sprite, add Ignister, Stun, Naturia, see all this stuff. Marincess is there, so I guess it's got to be mentioned. But I don't see it. I know everybody knows what it does. It's very similar to Evil Eye. It builds one big tower and does what it does. But it could play through a lot of stuff. I'll put it right here, ahead of Infernoids. For hire, this could be Sprite for hire. This could be Runic for hire. It's solid, but it's rogue. I just feel like it's kind of Runic Bestials is just kind of the Runic deck to play right now, and for hire by itself just isn't it. So rogue, but it's decent. I'd put it ahead of Evil Eye maybe. Runic for hire specifically. This is Dogmatica. Just not that great of a deck. I do see it once in a while. It's out there. It's a fun deck you could play maybe in the lower ranks. It's rogue, though. It could do some things. Albazoa is pretty good. It kills extra decks, but it just takes too long. It's slow. So I would put it, ahead of Marincess, but behind Labyrinth Plunder. I feel like Labyrinth Plunder's got to go a little higher, because Plunder is actually pretty good with Labyrinth. So I'm actually going to put it right around here. Okay, you have Dinos. Shout out to my man DJ who plays Dinos only, and he loves it. And it's one of those combo decks, but it's just one of those combo decks that is power crept by all the other combo decks. So it just sucks. This is how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. You have super powerful combo decks, mid-range decks, and control decks, and the most powerful ones sit at the top. And then all the other combo, mid-range, and control decks just can't really compete because they're just not as good. And that's just the way the game is, which sucks. But I wish there was a little bit more variety. It does look like there's a lot of variety, but the problem is, you see here, 3 tier 1 decks. Now, obviously, this is my list. Take it with a grain of salt, but there's only going to be a few tier 1 decks. That's how it works. And then there's only going to be a few tier 2 decks. 6 is kind of a lot. Obviously premeditating here. This is preliminary. We don't know what's going to happen, but this is what I think is going to happen. So you got 6 really powerful decks. That's okay, pretty decent variety. And then you got a bunch of tier 3, which is awesome. I would like to see a lot more tier 3 decks that can compete. That would be cool. And some of these rogues are they could do that. Kaiju, no, this is 8-axis blind going second. Great going second, but it's gimmicky once again. It's only good going second, and sometimes it doesn't work. Uh, you know, you don't see it. I never see it on the ladder in Diamond, barely ever. So, I mean, it could be better than a lot of decks out there, but because once again, going second in Master Duel is a big deal. But I'm throwing it somewhere in Rogue. At this point, I'm just going to start throwing things in Rogue. Ninjas, Rogue, whatever, anywhere in Rogue. Ninjas is cool. It's fun. Control, mid-ish type deck. More control, actually. Fun control deck. Just not enough power. It's actually good against Kashtira, but against everything else, it's going to have trouble, Umi Control, one of my favorite decks. The first deck that ever brought me to Master. And I love it. It's great. It's fun. It's stun. It's its own little personal, customized, creative version of stun. Much better than regular stun, which is cheese. But Umi has a tough time. Because ever since we lost all those tech cards, terraforming, Foolish Burial Goods getting knocked down to 1, losing all the pots, it kills all these rogue stun decks and rogue mid-range decks that are out there that used to be decent as long as they had some sort of gas, some sort of way to get to their things they need to get to. Not anymore. It's just very difficult to get the board you need with Umi Control. And even if you do, there's just much better decks that could just destroy you. So, but I think Umi's good. Like, it's a good deck. It's just so inconsistent. And it's pretty bad going second. So, we'll put it somewhere in Rogue. Sky Strikers. You know what it is. It's Sky Strikers, right? I mean, they do what they do with the spells and all that stuff, but they're just power crept by everything else. I mean, they're just better decks. I'm sorry, Sky Strikers fans. I enjoy, as I know you guys love the deck and they're obsessed with it, but it's just not that great anymore. Black Wings, another one. Rogue. If you like it, you like it. Play it. And remember, all of these decks, by the way, can probably be brought to Master. I mean, definitely can be brought to Master. Can they be brought to Master 1? It would take an unbelievably good pilot for some of these decks to make Master 1. Like, for instance, Marincess, Black Wings, Ninjas, Umi Control, Sky Striker, Dogmatica, Dinos, maybe. Like, these decks are too gimmicky, some of them, or they have one thing that they do and they go for, and once it gets stopped, it's over. It's hard to be consistent in best of 1 situations to keep doing that and hitting. So it's just very hard. But you could definitely take these decks to Master, I think. You just have to know the deck well and build the deck right. That's what I would say. Tri-Brigade. Tri-Brigade Sprite. You got Lyralust Tri-Brigade. This is a decent deck. It used to be one of the best decks, but obviously it's power crept now. It's still, I would say, pretty high in Rogue, though. I would put it up here somewhere. Maybe right behind Makako. Spiral, another combo deck. That's a good combo deck, but there's just better combo decks. I mean, plain and simple. It's somewhere in Rogue. I don't know. Whatever, right? Numeron, another going second strategy. Basically, just not as good of a version of Makako. A quicker version, a way more gimmicky version, but not as good because Makako's way more versatile. Numeron needs to get the Numeron network, the wall, blah, blah, do all this stuff. And if it doesn't, it loses. So, very gimmicky. We'll throw it somewhere in here, wherever. I'll throw it behind Umi because it's not better than Umi. This is Endymion, so another pendulum type deck. Endymion's decent, but once again, Rogue. I don't think it's doing much of anything right now. I'm going to put it way back here. Yeah. Thunder Dragons, this is really more... Thunder Dragons usually are more part of a pile. I threw them in here because I know a lot of people play them in certain things. Different piles. Sometimes you see people play them with Punk. Hold on 1 second again. This freaking computer stinks. Come on. So, before this dies on me, Okay, good. So yeah. So before this dies on me, let's finish this. Why does it keep doing this? I mean, what the hell? All right. Sorry about that. So, what did I say? Thunder Dragons. I'm gonna put it at the bottom. By the way, I'm gonna move Dinos up a little bit. Why does this keep happening? Okay, I'm gonna put um, Dinos much higher because they're much better than a lot of these decks out here. Okay. So anyway, Thunder Dragons, yeah, it's part of other piles, other decks. You don't really play Thunder Dragons by itself, but it's a decent little engine and package you could put into something, but it's still rogue as an overall archetype. So, all right. Here's an interesting one. Rescue Ace. I do want to get this one in before my computer actually dies. Um, Rescue Ace is going to be massive. It's one of the best decks. It might be the best deck in OCG or one of the best. It's one of the best in TCG, and that's coming for us too. The thing is, it's not coming in this January pack. It's going to be coming probably in the February pack. I'm thinking. That's got to be the latest. Maybe March, right? But as of right now, we're talking about the tier list for this upcoming meta with Rescue Ace not getting the support yet. It needs that emergency card and some other stuff. The Abel Star, whatever. It's still good, but it's rogue because it's okay at its point right now. I would put it behind all these other decks, maybe right around here. It's high end rogue because you could do something with it. I wouldn't recommend playing it yet, though. But if you do have Rescue Ace, hold on to it. It's going to be a really good deck, a top meta deck. So if you're interested in that, if you have it, hold it because it's going to be good. Okay, Mayakashi, Zombies, Zombie World. This is all that type of stuff. Rogue. It's a rogue deck. I've seen it a couple of times. People trying to play it, trying to turn everything dark with Zombie World, and it's just a little gimmicky thing, and it could be fun. It's a fun little zombies deck. You can mix it with other archetypes too. Crystal Beast. This is a deck I owned. Once again, just like Umi, even worse than Umi, Crystal Beast got hit super hard with all those tech bans like Terraforming and Foolish Burial Goods and all that stuff. So not that I would used to say it's high end rogue. Posse even during the Telements tier 0 meta, I would say it's tier 3 even. But now it's just a low end rogue deck. I mean, plain and simple. Fun deck though, if you're interested to play a control version is fun. Gate Guardians, I threw this in here because it's kind of newer. It came out pretty recently. It's not very good. I would put it probably in the dumpster. It's just not good. But if you want to play it, play it. If you want to have fun, it's just a level 7. It just doesn't have any consistency. It's very bricky. I don't know. Cyber Dragons. The reason why I bring up Cyber Dragons had this little gimmicky thing going on for a minute. I think it was not last season, the season before, where it would, basically tribute or fuse to tribute your opponent's monsters and get rid of them and bring something out, but you don't really see that anymore. So, Cyber Dragons is low end rogue somewhere, right? Then we got Dark Magician because it's everyone's favorite Dark Magician. It's Yugimoto's deck. It's dumpster. Like, it's bad. Although I will say I have seen Dark Magician in Master 2 and I lost to it because of a Guardian Chimera. So if it's played properly, you can do something with it, but it's very rare and it'd be a super intense, mentally exhausting grind just to take Dark Magician anywhere. So it goes in the dumpster for me. Same with Blue Eyes. I mean, it's Blue Eyes. It's even worse than Dark Magician. So bricky. So, you know what it is. Goaty. I have Goaty. I love Goaty. The archetype is awesome. It looks great. It's fun to play. It's just so slow. It has no traps, no spells. It has nothing but slow monsters that synchro on the opponent's turn. Um, but there is support coming. It came out in the OCG. It looks like two pretty decent, good support cards, but more monsters, of course. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, Goaty, definitely a fan favorite, but dumpster fire. Salomon, great. Same thing. I'll give Salomon great low end rogue. Nah, it's a dumpster. I'd put it at the top of the dumpster though. I'm just throwing. These are just some fan favorites I'm throwing out there for everybody. And obviously they're just not around. I mean, you're not going to see them in Diamond or Master. At least I never have. So salads definitely, looking for support in the future. So maybe it'll get better. We know that's coming. Galaxy Eyes, Photons, Dragons, it's Rogue. Had new support come out recently and stuff, but still obviously just a Rogue deck. I'll put it back here somewhere. Then we got a few more. Gene Raiders are all right. They could do damage, but once again, they kind of, they got to hit their stride. If they don't, they pretty much get beat. That's what a lot of things happen with these rogue decks is they just get like, one imperm or one ash or one out. You out their field spell or whatever. Like that's it. The whole thing is done, and that's what you get with Gene Raiders. I would say it's a little more higher end rogue. Maybe not. Maybe a little head of dinos and stuff. Then we got DDDs. I just put it here because DDDs is awesome. It's probably the hardest deck to play in Yu-Gi-Oh! It has every single mechanic in the game. So if you want to try to master a really hard deck, I throw this in there because this is the deck. It does everything. But just obviously power crept and, nobody plays it. But I'll put it in the middle of Rogue somewhere. I guess right around here somewhere. And then last but definitely not least, but not great either, is Danger Dark Worlds, whatever it is. It was interesting for a while when it came out. You had that hand loop thing going on. You could deck people out if they max see you, but it really doesn't have too much going on beyond that. I mean, it could summon like crazy and do a lot of things, but it just doesn't have anything else. It could summon a ton, but it does nothing else. Like it has no versatility, which I feel like might be a problem for Super Heavy Samurai. But obviously, Super Heavy Samurai is on a whole different level of power. But yep, there's your tier list for season 25, 2024. We're in January 2024, but January 10th, more specifically. This is my preemptive tier list. This is not the current tier list. This is what I think is going to happen. So, in review, we don't have to look at the dumpster. We don't have to look at the rogue really much at all. There are a couple of interesting decks in rogue that could climb up, but branded, Mathmech, Vanadium to me are going to be the big three that are going to be tough to beat. Maybe Vanquish Soul will be in there. But I don't think Vanquish Soul is getting any better. If anything, I think it's going to just even out. It plateaued, right? I think it's kind of overrated. A good pilot could do a lot of things with it. It's a good deck, obviously. It's in tier 2. But I don't think it's a tier 1 deck anymore. It came out hot, and now it's fizzled. Branded has so much going for it. It's going to be tier 1. I think it's the best deck, right alongside Mathmech. I think those two are the top two. I think very close is going to be Vanadium for a while. I might actually change this a bit. Let me do one thing because I feel like that Branded and Mathmech are so much better than all the other decks that I think they should stand alone in tier 1. I think they're the two best. They barely got nothing happened to them on the ban list. They're exactly the way they were. And they were already really powerful. Which is ludicrous that Mathmech's not even on the tier list. I don't know what's going on with MasterDuelMeta.com because Mathmech is absolutely extremely powerful until Circular goes to 1 or something. But I'll put Vanadium at the top of tier 2. So Vanadium, we got Runic Bestials, which has really been coming up and is really strong, especially against those two top tier decks, those top tier decks there. All of them, really, even Vanadium. You got Vanquish Soul, which I'm putting behind Runic Bestials because I think Runic Bestials is good against the current meta more than Vanquish Soul is. You know, Vanquish Soul just does what it does. Runic Bestials has a specific goal in mind, right? Excuse me. And then you have Labyrinth, which is always going to be a tier 1 or tier 2 deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, it's been forever in TCG. It's been forever in OCG. It's always up there because it's the premier control deck, and there's no control deck yet to beat it. So it's always going to do that. It's always going to counter those combo decks, right? So to me, it's a tier 2 deck. It might even be higher. Maybe it'll surpass Vanquish Soul. I don't know. But so you got four decks in tier 2. You got 2 in tier 1. That's what I believe. I think Super Heavy Samurai is going to come out at least from the jump as a tier 3 deck, maybe low end tier 2. So I'm going to put it at the top of tier 3. It's borderline for me, very close. I don't know. It's up in the air. I don't think it's going to be tier 1 though. I really don't. I don't care how powerful it is. Without the spells, with Max C being a problem, maybe at the end of January, going into February, people will figure out a way to make it a super powerful deck, but I just don't think right off the rip it's going to be that way. Sort of like Kashtira was when it came out. It wasn't this tier 0 deck that a lot of people thought it was going to be, including myself. So I don't want to be wrong again about this and say this deck is going to be completely cracked. I don't think it's going to be like that, but it's still going to be very good. Possibly tier 2. Once again, take it with a grain of salt. Kashtira is going to drop to tier 3. Still a really good deck, though. Kashtira is always going to be good as long as it's got a Rise Heart and all these pieces that it has. It took a hit, so it's not going to be a tier 1, tier 2 deck anymore, but it's still going to be very good. Pearly, same thing. Took a hit, still very good. Dragon Link, took a pretty big hit, still good. I think it's going to have more problems than Kashtira and Pearly, though, because it's a combo deck. So it needs to combo off and everything has to go right. Whereas Kashtira and Pearly, they could possibly make a mistake or two and still get by, right? Gold Pride Punk, I think, is going to come out the gate pretty hot. I think a lot of people are going to play it just because they think it's going to be fun and obviously a new deck. People love to play new decks. But I think it could sustain a tier 3 level for a while. It all depends on how this meta is going to shake out. So we'll see. But I think it's going to be a very strong combo deck that could have a lot of power. The only issue is going to have one glaring issue, which is going to be negates. I don't think it's going to have a ton of negates going on. Then you got Sprite and Rika at the end of tier 3. Sprite, because Sprite is always good, even though it's been hit a bunch of times, sort of like Telements. But I think it's got more options with the Gishki stuff now. So it keeps it a little bit more relevant, keeps it a little more afloat, and it could still build pretty crazy boards. You still got Sprite Elf and everything. Rika builds one of the best turn 1 boards out there. It's just a great deck. People just don't play it for some reason, so play it because it's good. And then I would say borderline tier 3 decks: Sword Soul, Dino Morphia, Tearlaments, Trap Tricks, Pendulum Magicians. That's about it. I'm not going to put Flu and Exorcisters in there. Flu is just way too... It's been hit way too many times now. And now Pot of Duality's at 1. It's just like, when's this deck going to actually die? But it's still going to be good, of course, because it always is. But it's not going to be in the tier list. It's going to be Rogue. But Sword Soul could climb into tier 3. Dynamorphia I could see climbing into tier 3. Tearlaments I could see finding a way to climb into tier 3. Trap Tricks probably not. Pendulum Magicians probably not. So let's say, to me, where the meta really ends is with Sword Soul, Dynamorphia, and Tearlaments. So altogether you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got the top 6, and you got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 decks that are truly viable that I think are going to make noise. Where they pan out, we'll see. And I don't want to discount the rest of these decks. They're all going to be good. Rescue Ace coming down the line. Labyrinth Plunder could do damage. There's other ways to do things. Be creative. Make your own decks. Have fun with it. But you know, don't underestimate. You can take any deck to master. If you grind enough, if you build the deck right, it's all about deck building. It's all about being smart with how you play your cards, ratios, and basically the plays you make. It's on you, a lot of it. There's a lot of skill in Yu-Gi-Oh. You know what I mean? So just take that with a grain of salt. There's your tier list for January 10th, 2024. Ban list that's coming and the new decks that are coming. Gold Pride, Super Heavy Samurai, and some other support from Vanadium and other decks. But there you have it. Feel free to join our community. Dreadful Gaming is the Discord. Come join it. Link is in the description. On the YouTube page, Dread_cast. On Twitch, I'm always streaming, always climbing the ranks, always talking. We got a fun community, not toxic. That's what you look to see. And we have a lot of fun together. We do tournaments, etc. So thanks for watching. I know this is a long video. I appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll have a new one coming out soon. See y'all next time. Your boy's out.